A very well-known case study in synthetic biology is that of artemisinin. So artemisinin is used to treat malaria. Malaria, of course, is a very serious disease with a high global burden of disease. The WHO found that in 2013 there were almost 200 million cases of malaria globally and almost 600,000 deaths, and many of those were in children under the age of 5. The artemisinin is derived from the plant Artemisia annua. There's a picture of it there. It also has common names, including sweet wormwood. And Artemisia emerged from a screen of Chinese herbal remedies that following the development of drug-resistant malaria, malaria that was resistant to the prior standard of care. This work was done by a scientist named Yu Tu. Her results for Artemisia were originally pretty inconsistent, so at which point she returned to the ancient texts about this plant and found clues that helped her isolate the active component, which was later called artemisinin. She won a Nobel Prize for this work in 2015. In the past, artemisinin had been exclusively derived from crops of the plant grown by small farmers in China, Southeast Asia, and Africa. But in 2013, a Gates Foundation funded project that was led by scientists from California and from Amyris produced an engineered yeast that produces high yields of artemisinic acid, a precursor to artemisinin. Semi-synthetic artemisinin, or SSA, was then produced industrially by Sanofi. This figure shows the steps that they went through to create the yeast and improve the yeast to ultimately produce artemisinic acid. Then through then a chemical process is used to convert artemisinic acid to artemisinin. Originally, it was claimed that SSA would only be a supplement to the plant-derived artemisinin, but it has often been discussed as a wholesale replacement for crop-derived or plant-derived artemisinin. In recent years, there have actually been bumper crops to produce sufficient quantities of artemisinin, and therefore it's reduced the need recently for SSA. Sanofi recently sold their SSA manufacturing site. So why is this controversial? So there are clearly benefits from industrially produced SSA and ultimately artemisinin, right? In theory, you could have a cheaper treatment for a very serious disease. As price decreases, presumably accessibility to treatment increases. Industrial manufacture could lead to a more stable drug supply. The crop can be very, very difficult to grow and very sensitive to environmental and background genetic conditions. As you increase accessibility, you decrease disease burden, which leads to improved public health overall, which could also lead then to economic benefits, not to mention the individual benefits of not being sick. And they hoped that it would reduce monotherapy use, which leads to increased resistance again. What are the harms? So as you decrease price for artemisinin, you decrease income for those small farmers who are growing the crop. If the farmers can't make enough money growing crop for artemisinin production, some of those farmers are going to be displaced. This won't be a crop that they can profitably grow anymore, and they won't have that income. They will have to try to find another crop or another way to replace that lost revenue. And it's possible that it could lead to price destabilization, the opposite of what is hoped. If, for example, the price begins to drop, farmers leave the market, then there's not enough artemisinin and price goes back up. So there are both benefits and harms associated with industrial production, synthetic biology assisted industrial production of artemisinin. So how do we weigh these benefits against the harms? What does the distribution of benefits and harms look like? Who are reaping the benefits and who are suffering from the harms? What about that cultural knowledge from which artemisinin was developed in the first place? And what are the other ways that this might have played out, given either different stakeholder input at the beginning or a different model for the relative roles of SSA and crop-derived artemisinin?